Here's a question. Who links Alfred Hitchcock, Ernst Lubitsch, John Ford, Elia Kazan and Joe Mankiewicz? Say the name Dorothy Spencer these days and you're going to get blank looks. Yet from the 20s all the way through to the end of the 70s, she was one of classic Hollywood's great craftsmen. And a testament to her skill is that all of those directors worked with her numerous times. In fact, her last collaboration with former editor Mark Robson spanned 8 films, even bringing her out of semi-retirement in 1974, aged 65, to win an Academy Award nomination for the disaster movie Earthquake. Interviewed in 1974, Dorothy had this to say: "In editing a picture with as much action as Earthquake, you adhere to the script as much as you can. And from that point on, it's a matter of isolating the most exciting bits and putting them together. I tried to get as much action into it as possible." Followers of this series on Invisible Women won't be surprised to hear that there's no readily available footage of her, even though she lived into the 21st century. But here she is in a rare late published interview. When young cinema students ask me what it takes to become a film editor, I always tell them that patience is the first requirement. For example, there was a situation on Earthquake where we wanted to delete a scene, but I didn't have enough material to cover the cut. Mark Robson told me that I wouldn't have the patience to solve the problem, but I said, "It's a challenge and I'll lick it." I just insisted that there had to be a way of doing it. There's always a way. Well, I found a way and he liked it. He just walked away shaking his head, but I thought it was fun. Besides patience, I think you have to be dedicated to become a film editor. I enjoy editing and I think that's necessary, because editing is not a watching the clock job. I've been on pictures where I never even knew it was lunchtime or time to go home. You get so involved in what you're doing, in the challenge of creating, because I think cutting is very creative. In 1945, Elia Kazan directed an adaptation of Betty Smith's novel A Tree Grows in Brooklyn at 20th Century Fox. By this time, Dorothy's work with Ford, Lubitsch and Hitchcock had elevated her to the Premier League. Let's get to know Dorothy's work by taking a close look at a key scene. Kazan's blocking is to group father and the kids together and leaving Mum Dorothy Maguire, the harder, more practical parent, in a solo shot.
Only now the poor thing will have to lie in Potter's Field.
But she did have the dresses.
The length of the reaction of Dorothy Maguire...
Yeah. You better show me the piano, Madonna.
...and the cut back to her are cuts that bring out the emotion and the acting.
It's got a nice tone.
Kazan now starts a long series of 3 shots around the piano. Again, he's preserving that group, but framing it cleverly so that the kids' reactions are in the same frame. This is a great example of the skill in knowing when not to cut.
Maxwellton's braes are bonny, where early falls the dew. And was there that Annie Laurie gave me a promise true? Gave me a promise.
Now Mum's back in. She's very affected by this song. Another long reaction.
Will be and for Bonnie Annie Laurie I would lay me down. And
I ain't never heard you sing that before. It's pretty. It's
Maxwell and Brave
A great reverse shot here shows the kid's concern.
was the dude, and 'twas there that Annie Laurie gave me her promise true. Gave me her promise.
And we're back to a slightly closer version of that three-shot. Peggy Ann Garner and Ted Donaldson are breaking your heart around here.
Will be
Good editors save their close-ups for key moments.
Annie Laurie. I would lay
And meanwhile, Maguire's trying to do something practical. No time for sentimentality. Surprisingly, it was not one of Dorothy's 4 Oscar nominations, which were for Stagecoach in 1939 with Otto Lovering, Anatole Litvak's Decision Before Dawn in 1951, the epic Cleopatra in 1963, and Earthquake in 1974. She received the American Cinema Editors Lifetime Achievement Award in 1989. After an apprenticeship at Fox in the 30s, Dorothy worked exclusively for independent film producer Walter Wanger, mostly as co-editor with Otto Lovering, with whom she cut John Ford's seminal western Stagecoach, which reinvented the western genre and made a star of John Wayne. For some reason, I always seem to get assigned to pictures that are very physical. I don't know why. I like working on action pictures very, very much. They're more flexible, and I think you can do a lot more with them. I like dialogue pictures too, but still and all, you're locked down with dialogue.
You hear it? It's the bugles. They're blowing the charge.
Saved by the Cavalry, yes, but it wasn't a cliché back then. As a solo editor, she cut one of Hitchcock's first American films, the pre-war thriller Foreign Correspondent. Whilst Hitch was known for shooting films in his head and knowing exactly what shots were needed to construct the scene, you have to admire the verve and consummate skill with which Dorothy puts together a thrilling chase scene like this.
There he goes! Follow that car, quick!
Oh. Say, you better get out of here. This might be dangerous.
You're Priscilla, right on.
Trouble, who's he shot?
Van Mayer assassinated.
Did?
Looked like it.
Yeah, sure.
Couldn't be much.
It's not one of the best-known Hitchcocks, but it's still exciting and holds up well to this day. Let's go over to Lubitsch, we all do in the end, and his classic anti-Nazi comedy To Be or Not to Be. This is a great example of the classical Hollywood editing style, with the scene opening on 2 of our heroes, played by Tom Duggan and Felix Bressart. Then cue the Nazis, long shot. Back to our guys. The Nazis, closer, longer. Reaction 2. Reaction 3. Reaction 4. Nazis. Fade into warning notice. Wipe into worse notice. Fade into moody, terrible notice. Fading into things are officially terrible. There's also a feeling of passing time here. This has taken a few months, and we faded back to our sorrowful heroes. Dorothy continued to work with top caliber directors in the 1940s, editing some absolute classics.
Life. Please help me, sir.
But that's the dread of something after death?
Would you carry on? I'm afraid it's been so long.
The undiscovered country, from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus,
with most directors, you cut it exactly the way they want it, and there's no room for editorial creativity, Dorothy once said. But Ford never told me anything, and he never looked at the picture until the end, she said. Some praise indeed. In the 1950s and the advent of CinemaScope, Dorothy found no difficulties working in the new widescreen shape and worked almost exclusively in it from then on. The battle scenes in Man in the Grey Flannel Suit are cut with her normal aptitude for action. But here, when faced with a long dialogue scene, she adopts a much slower speed to accommodate the pacing.
I'm sure they do. What is $1 million, Susie? Define it for me as you see it.
$1 million is a lot of money.
You'd be surprised how little. And actually, it's things, darling. It's different things. It's about half of a small hospital. It's the life earnings of 6 average men. Every nickel they make during their entire lives.
She worked on A pictures throughout the 50s and 60s, cutting John Wayne, Gregory Peck, Clark Gable, Marlon Brando, Paul Newman, Humphrey Bogart, Frank Sinatra and Walter Matthau, culminating with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton in the epic 1963 Cleopatra, which involved the editing of 70,000 feet of film, equating to about 13 hours worth of material. Sounds a lot, doesn't it? This sequence, Cleopatra's entry into Rome, runs about 5 minutes. Just in this excerpt, which lasts about a minute, there's a total of 11 different cameras in use. But let's ignore the shots of people, which are essentially inserts, not running the full length of the scene, and consider the cameras covering the main action, of which there are 7. So that's 7 minutes of film to have to look at, but let's say there's 3 different takes of each camera. That's then 21 minutes of film, but the entire scene is 5 minutes, so potentially that could be 105 minutes of film, an hour and 3/4 of material for one 5-minute scene. Do you think her Oscar nomination was part earned for endurance? Her last great achievement was the editing of Earthquake in 1974, about which she was interviewed for American Cinematographer. Even with all of the control exercised in the filming of Earthquake, unexpected things happened now and then. For example, in the film, Richard Roundtree plays the role of a daredevil motorcyclist. The double who was doing the stunt for him took a spectacular spill that wasn't in the script. He wasn't hurt too badly, just shook up a bit. Anyway, we held that take aside and later actually used it in the picture. We simply shot another scene of Richard Roundtree duplicating the last part of the action. It wasn't intended, and we tricked it up, but it added to the excitement of the sequence. There were many shots in this picture of a type that are never found in a normal type of picture, and that's what I liked about it. There was a chance to do something different. Television has educated people to jump from one thing to another. Everyone wants to have everything happen quickly. They don't want to wait for anything. And that's why we had to make some jump cuts in the earthquake scenes. We did that to tighten the action up. Mr. Robson would say, "Take the air out," and I would sometimes cut 5 to 6 seconds, 8 or 10 feet out of the middle of the scene, hoping that the cut wouldn't be obvious or jarring to the audience. Most of these jump cuts turned out very smoothly. Did you notice that one? Let's take another look.
Hand me that light.
I can say the only sequence in the film that really gave me any kind of problem was the one where 70 people are trapped underground and they tunnel through into the storm drain. I sort of put that sequence aside as long as I could. I wanted the chance to think out what I could do to improve the timing. There was a lot of material shot for the sequence, and the problem was to let the audience know that 70 people had gotten out without having the sequence grow tedious. The part where Charlton Heston and George Kennedy were drilling through the wall took an endless amount of footage. We didn't want to dissolve the scene, but we also didn't want to hold the audience there until they cut this big hole through the cement.
We're through.
Oh, my God! They're through with me!
Anybody in there?
About 70 of us!
So what do we know about Dorothy Spencer? Well, not much. She seemed a polite lady, even after all those years and Oscar nominations and industry recognition. She's in her 60s, referring to director and cinematographer as Mr. Robson and Mr. Lathrop. And despite having worked with him on 7 previous films, she seems surprised that Robson allows her to edit sequences without his supervision, stating with some modesty, "I guess he has confidence in me now." She was married to Frank McHugh, a supporting actor from the 30s, much on TV in the 50s. They had 3 children, and that's about it. Not even, it seems, a published obituary, which when you consider her contribution to several screen classics seems highly neglectful to say the least.